Welcome to Defiance of Silence, a Sacred Witness. This is a space for survivors, healers, and witnesses to share their truth. Here we stand against the silence that isolates us and embrace the silence that allows us to be truly heard. I'm Valerie, your host, a U.S. Army veteran, nurse, and a survivor. Together, we will discover the power of being witnessed and the healing that follows. A gentle note, though, this podcast includes conversations about sexual trauma and abuse. Please listen with care and honor your own well-being. Thank you for being here to witness today's conversation. Hey, everybody. Welcome. Today's our first episode with my first guest. Her name is Amber Miskovich, and she is hailing from Ohio, the great state of Ohio. I'm so honored to have her here today, guys, because she is going to teach us what it means to hold space and what the role of a sacred witness is. So if you are unsure what that means, pick a spot, sit down, let's ground ourselves and get ready to dive in. So take a deep breath, inhale, and let it out. Think about one thing, just one thing that you can do to put yourself into your body. Touch your skin, hold something soft, look at something pretty, just to let your body know that you're here and you're ready to witness. Very good. Now on with the show. Amber, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, friend. I can't wait. So excited for you.
This is going to be a really, really big conversation. So just to kick it off, I just want to mention that Amber is an Air Force veteran, and she is a former firefighter and a massage therapist, has done a lot of body work, and she is a badass. So I am so excited to have her here today to teach us what it means to be in our bodies and what it means when our body keeps the score. So without further ado, Amber, just kick it off however you want to. What, in your opinion, is the role of a sacred witness?
Such a great question and conversation, because I think you're hearing it a lot now, like holding space for people, where I don't think maybe 5, 10 years ago you really heard it a lot. And it's kind of like what I get paid to speak about. I just said this today at a speech. It's like I'm getting paid to come and talk about resilience and mindfulness. And we have to ask the question, why is there a need for this? And so I like to think about, like, why is there a need to have someone to hold space? And if you look at our culture the way it is now, most of us are not feeling heard, nor are we listening to anyone, let alone ourselves. And so, when I think about space, I like to just take that back to listening. Do you listen to yourself? Do you feel heard? And again, most people are going to tell you no to those things. And I just believe that to be heard, we have to begin by being a listener. And again, it has to start with yourself. So when the context of holding space for people, it's listening, being present, being mindful, being in the moment fully with them, not being somewhere else. But again, that has to go back to, can you even do that with yourself? Because if you can't do that with yourself, I just don't think you're going to be able to do it with anyone else. What do you say?
Yeah. And I think that that's really hard to do when you don't know how. When you're not in your body and you don't know how to hold space for yourself, because I can speak for myself from my own lived experience. When you don't know how to do that because you're doing something for everyone else and your needs don't matter and you're putting them aside because you need to keep the peace or whatever's going on, or you grew up in a home where you never knew what that felt like to have space held for you or to be valid. So to learn first how to hold that space for yourself and learn that your voice does matter and you can listen to others, only to the extent that you can listen to yourself. And I think you just nailed it. But how do you do that if you don't know how to do it and someone's listening going, I don't know how to do that? What's the first step?
Well, I would say what kind of struck me as you were speaking, most of us are walking around not even present in our bodies. So what you were saying is like, we don't know, right? So people are stuck in their head, spinning, anxiety, stress, whatever. There's this energy that has no place to go. It doesn't have a path. And so we don't even understand that we're missing signals in our body. We're missing pain signals. We're missing, all kinds of things. Maybe we don't even know we're hungry, you name it. The body is constantly trying to give us signals, but if we aren't present, if we're hijacked, it's kind of impossible to get that messenger. I love what you said about being heard, or you're just saying something about the voice, because that's kind of that gateway. What is right between your head and your heart? It's your throat, it's your voice, it's our
Mm,
our ability to speak. So first and foremost, and I love what you're doing, just getting people grounded for a minute, because that is the first step. There's never going to be space held for yourself or anyone else if you can't get present in the moment, if you
mm,
can't be where your feet are. And so that's really the first place. I got to be where my feet are. 90% of the time, we're focused future or past. We're not right here, right now.
yeah.
Um, so that's the first step. You got to be here now. You got to be where your feet are. And then you can start to open the space from there. But if you can't get there, you got to go back to square one. Keep working on that, because for a lot of us who've been very conditioned to stress type A, multiple, I like to think of 77 browsers open in my brain and I can't get one closed or one focused on. um, I've got to first practice that, because just like the oxygen mask on the plane, people talk about it all the time. If I can't get it on me, I am no help to anyone.
That's true.
So we got to be where our feet are.
Yeah, that's very true. I think it's very difficult to do that when you've got all this external distraction and all the things that we have going on. It literally distracts us from just being where we are. Like I know when you drive to work and you're like, how did I get here? Because you're not present. You're physically driving your car, but you arrived to work or you arrived home and you don't even know how you got there. And that's what I refer to in a part of my journey is the walking dead, just a zombie, just going from point A to point B, from task to task, white knuckling to the next thing. And it's scary when you start to get in your body, because people would talk to me about, well, the body keeps the score. And going to the doctor and having all of these problems that I had, and literally about to get real. This is what this podcast is about. So, going to the doctor because I was physically unable to have sex because nothing would go in there, but nothing was wrong with me. I know now that that was anxiety and that was my body had kept the score because of the trauma I had been through. But if you're not aware to that, all I heard when I went to the doctor was, this is all in your head. And that's not what they meant, but that's what I heard. And so to realize that there is a psychosomatic, I didn't really even know what that term meant. So can you explain like a little bit of the psychosomatic, like what happens, how the body is keeping the score? Because it's psycho meaning like our brain, right? And it's somatic meaning our movement. So how does psychosomatics work and how do you release the score through your body?
Yeah, so I like to think of it as like this, and for all of you listening, just the best way that I describe it, that I like to teach people, is just think of a clenched fist, and you can even squeeze your own fist right now. Watch the blood flow go away. Keep squeezing it, squeezing it. Pressure's building, pain is building, blood flow's going away. That's what constriction, which causes pain, which causes problems. And then you open that palm, and blood flow comes back. I've got all this dilation, right? So, what you're describing is basically this clenched fist is stress and anxiety. And we have 60,000 miles of blood vessels in our body. And the moment that I'm stressed or anxious, it's an on switch. So, that disconnection from mind to body. So, although it was cold the way the doctor said that to you, there's a part of it that's true.
Correct.
Your thinking created constriction, which therefore shuts off a rest and digest organ, which is reproductive, which
Mm-hmm.
is digestion, which how many people have digestion issues? So, literally, when we think a thought and the body constricts or dilates. So, anxiety, anger, constriction, gratitude, dilation, deep breath work, dilation, right? So that the thoughts just have that quick response. And there's a reason why the body actually has the wisdom. I like to think of the brain has the mechanics to get things going, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the body has this deep wisdom and knowing, and just knowing more about you and your story. Like your body held the memory, even though the brain
Right. Right.
didn't.
Correct. And especially important because they're asking you, well, and they know what I don't know, correct? Like there must have been some kind of trauma, but poor girl, she's not even aware of it. But if you don't have the right witness, because that trauma needs the right witness, and that's the key, I think, in my personal opinion, to how I started to become free was because I had the right witness. Because I told people before what was going on, and it wasn't the right witness. Being told, oh, well, you didn't have a gun to your head. I mean, there's just so many weird things that people say because they're
Hmm.
uncomfortable. And you don't know that, right? So you just go, all right, I guess it's not safe to tell anybody anything. And the memories aren't accessible. So once they become accessible and you get this download, and then your body is in complete nervous system shutdown, again, I don't know that I knew what that meant when it was happening to me. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, I want to go back just for a second because I think I like to think of this as like the person that, whatever the comment is that they say, I like to think of as jackass comments, but they're just
Mm-hmm.
not present, right? They can't get out of themselves. And it's not a bad thing, but like I like to think of it as like they can't be that safe space, that safe witness because they're so
Yeah,
stuck in their own world and it's so uncomfortable for them or whatever, like you said. Um, but how do we get to this place again? It's like, how do we find that witness? Like, I believe that there's no coincidences. So if you're
agree.
looking, I believe you're going to find it for sure. I think sometimes we want, for just from my own experience, I wanted people to be that safe person for me, but I knew in my gut they weren't. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that we have to backtrack to really understand that when I say the body has wisdom, it's literally telling us yes or no all the time. you know, Sometimes we go to doctors, and this is no shame on doctors. I know you're a nurse. I was a medic. I love the healthcare system. However, they have to see 10 patients an hour. How much bandwidth and capacity they actually have to listen to you. You know in your gut that they're not going to have the time to really understand what's deeply going on. So you go to a holistic person, you pay money out of pocket, whatever it is. Um, but I think the first step is, how do you feel around them? How's your body respond? Are you constricted around the person? Are you anxious in your speaking? Are you trying to get a million words out? That's not the right person. If
Mm-hmm.
you have to try to convince someone, that's not the right person. So then how do you find the right one? Again, I think there's an inner wisdom besides, obviously we've got this plethora of wisdom out there on the internet. But I think it's actually much more simpler than that. I actually don't think we have to go seeking and searching and paying a lot of money. I think there's healers and amazing people all around us, but I think it has to go back to within, and we have to start asking ourselves, how do I feel in their presence? Because this is this wisdom that we have shut off. We've been told to shut off. We've not been given the right to listen to in many ways. And it tells us everything. You know, we affect 5 feet around us and we're affected by people within 5 feet. You know when someone's getting in your personal bubble if they're safe or not.
Right.
So I don't know if that really answers your question the way you want, but I think that the thing is we have to really start trusting ourselves. I do believe in sacred witnesses. I do believe we need people, but I honestly believe that a lot of times we actually know all the answers. We just won't get quiet or still enough to know that that's within us. Does that make sense?
It does. I think there's a lot of truth to that. I can attest to that for myself. And I can hear myself when in the beginning, especially of really coming out of all of this, I was like, I need to talk to this person. This person is safe. Let me talk to my therapist. And I would hear myself saying things. And then if I was in the company of the right witness, there wasn't a lot to say. And they would say, and then what? Or, and what else? Or, do you hear yourself? And it started to just like make sense to me that I did have it within me and I just wasn't paying attention. But to sit and be still and trust myself after, look what trusting got me. Like there's all these mind games that you play when you start a journey like this. And that's what I think this podcast is so important to explain, is that you can hear somebody talk all the psychobabble and all the stuff that they want to say. It's not that it's not important, but if you don't understand what's being said and it doesn't meet you where you're at, like at the beginning of a journey or stuck in the middle for like a really long time and you don't know where that's going, um like it takes a lot of grit, I think personally, to be able to be willing to sit in the unknown. And that's something that has just stuck with me for months and months recently, is just sitting in the unknown and literally checking with my body. And that's not something that was common for me or comfortable for me to do, to sit in the unknown and say, where am I feeling this in my body? And I would get frustrated when my therapist would say, close your eyes. Where are you feeling this in your body? And I'm like rolling my eyes to death in the back of my head with my eyes closed because I didn't know the answer. It wasn't that I was upset with her. I didn't know the answer because I didn't trust myself. And so it took a lot of work to be able to trust myself and trust my body and realize, like, oh, that weird feeling in my gut is actually my vagus nerve. Like these are things that are responding to my environment. And so talking about processing that through, can you shed some light on somatics? I know a lot of people are starting to get into this and movement to move things through. And I use that for myself. That is my go-to, is to move things through because they get stuck. Can
Mhm.
you explain that in a much better way than I can probably?
Well, it's funny because I've been a body worker since 2002. Well, I started in 2001 in school, and somatics is, I feel like, a newer word that people want to use, but I like to think of it as this. You've got this web inside your body, okay? And there is obviously, people understand muscles, bones, there's ligaments, tendons, cells. We get all that, but it's very becoming very known that we talk about fascia, and that is what's holding all those pieces together. And the thing about fascia is it's a living, breathing thing. I mean, it is reacting again, just that thinking, think about that constriction on those blood vessels. The fascia is the web around those vessels. And so when things are stuck, what happens, right? And I'll go back to the anxiety again. Anxiety is energy with no place to go. These things are trapped in our body, right? Whatever it is, anxiety, pain, problems. And I do believe that most are health issues. In fact, I train with Joe Dispenza, and he's got a lot of facts behind this that um, 90% of people that walk into a healthcare facility, no matter what their ailment is, it's typically starts here, right? It's usually starting with our thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And to get people to understand, like, somatics, I just want you to think something has to move to move. Like, if we want something to change, something has to move. If
Okay.
nothing changes, nothing changes. If I don't move something, expect the same results inside my body, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's take, for instance, I had, some physical abuse as a kid. So um, I was very aggressive in my relationships because all this is a mirror. So earlier you were saying, my therapist could say X, Y, and Z. Like, a good witness is always a mirror to you, and they ask questions versus give you answers, in my opinion. And I want you to think about even looking at yourself in a mirror, because when we think about somatics, it's like, what's happening in my body? What are the patterns in my body? What are my reactions? And typically they can be traced back to childhood, unless we've done work on moving things. We're typically reacting the way we have since childhood. So I was pretty aggressive in all my relationships because my deepest relationships as a kid, specifically with my brother, was aggression.
Yeah.
And it's no wonder that, a punch is like the first thing I'm going to throw. It's no wonder I went to these career fields. Um, so I like to dial it back to, like, where is it stemming from, to understand, like, where are we going with it? So when we start to move the body and start to release things, and for instance, I've done myofascial release training, and that is powerful. I've watched people, the therapist is no longer touching them, and their body will go on for 20 minutes in what we call unwinding. Um, the body's just releasing what it no longer wants to hold on to. The
Mm-hmm.
simplest description is, you eat food. If you don't poop it out, you will eventually die.
Yeah.
And yet, the experiences we go through, most times we don't digest. Like, I get you're not going to poop out the experiences, but you do have to move through those experiences. So the question is, where are they getting stored? And the answer is, it's in your fascia. So we got to move it. And some people organically move it, right? They're athletes, and they don't know that those movements in dancing or football or whatever, like, they are
Yeah.
moving through things, which
Yeah.
is why they get that
And they don't
release.
even know it. That's pretty cool.
They don't even know it. And yet other people, especially those of us that are stuck for longer, I just like to think the longer things are stuck, the more calcified they become, right?
Mm.
So the harder they are to break up.
That makes a lot of sense. And I can just give you a small example of somatics for me. One of the first things that I noticed, and now that I can be more aware and get in my body, especially I notice when I'm not and I come back to it, it's like, where have you been? There you are. Where have you been? But the first thing I noticed was all this. I had tons of neck pain for like forever, tons of neck pain just all the time. And I noticed once I had this experience of being witness, a very powerful experience, that I walked out of that experience and my neck was not hurting. Like there was no neck pain and it wasn't even anything I could explain. And then all of a sudden it just hit me like in a meditation, like, well, yeah, because you stopped carrying everybody else's burdens. And so I was able to release that, which kind of leads me to the next thing. Um, when we are being witnessed, so we get to give and release, right? And someone takes that from us and holds the space, and we feel seen, and then we release that. And so my neck stops hurting. Well, who witnessed me? What about the people like you, Amber, that witnessed me in this journey? Like you firsthand got to see this happen to me. So um, that's really special. But what do you do as a witness to hold that space and then release yourself? And also, going back actually a little bit further before you answer that, maybe, how do you hold the space and not try to fix and not try to um, like rescue or analyze what's going on? How do you pull yourself back? How does someone pull themselves back and go, I'm just holding this space? That was really hard for me because I felt like I had to fix everything for years, including people that didn't ask for it. And if I ever did that to you, I'm very sorry because I definitely had a couple of decades of thinking I was helping, but my helping wasn't helping. And so, and we all know that's called boundaries. And sometimes it's just a hard thing to learn. But in speaking with the body and holding that space for somebody, how does that person hold that space and not take it on? Number one, and number two, try to fix them.
Very good question. Yeah, very good questions. I want to go back to your neck thing real quick and later let's come back to the neck thing later. Let's do that
Okay.
because I want to share a story that I've had with that. And it's just Louise Hay has a great book called Heal the Body, and she really correlates, but I want to come back to your neck. Um, these are important things because even as a body worker early on, I used to work on like 12 people a day, and then I was also doing other jobs and I
Yeah, that's
was
a lot to carry
always
for you.
exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
It is. Um, However, it goes back to how well do you downshift and take care of yourself? Because I do believe, I know so many amazing healers out there and they have vitality out the wazoo and they work on a lot of people. But there's a certain element of they don't they don't take things personally, right? I think about the four agreements. Um, it is not my job to fix you. I like to think of myself as a conduit and an instrument. So I'm here to specifically in body work. I'm going to do my best and I'm going to leave it. I didn't always do that. When I was trying so hard and I would take it very personal if I couldn't, fix somebody's shoulder, fix somebody's body. And in the meantime, they're telling me their life story and I feel like they're, offloading all their personal crap to me. Um, when I stopped allowing myself to be the fixer and just allowed myself to be an instrument and I'm believer in
Wow.
God, like I would just ask God to guide my hands.
Yeah.
I really let go of that. Another thing
Powerful.
that was taught, yeah, and I was taught years ago just to like white light, right? Like light is incredibly healing, right? Where does mold grow? In the dark? I always imagine white light around myself and whoever I'm working on. People can think that's crazy. I do believe that is great, like advice for anyone that's doing any type of work. Some of the deeper healing emotional work, not hands-on. It is really hard to not interject. It's really hard when you're specifically seeing someone that has the story just like you. And I think that is just time, maturity, and how much are you taking care of yourself?
Yeah.
Because I have to ask myself, it's called wait. Why am I talking?
Mm. Say
It
that
is
again.
what
Say
I'm
that again.
so just the acronym wait and why am I talking?
Okay.
And Wayne Dyer always said, like, does it need to be said now? Does it need to be said by me? And I like to think of that because it's like, um, I rarely give advice anymore. If people ask me, I mean, don't get me wrong, my kids hear everything I want them to do, but
Mine too.
to my, yeah, but to friends or people I work with, I just try to follow things up with a question or, really try to witness what they're saying. because I'll go back to what we talked about earlier. Most people just need to be heard. They need to offload. They're not there for you to fix them. In fact, they have all the power to fix themselves. They just need a witness, and a witness doesn't need to talk, right? Eyes are what a witness need, and a heart, and the ears are a gift. But I believe that we can hear more from our heart and being than our ears. Like I just said this today to the group I was speaking to. We have two ears, one mouth, and I believe we should be using the ears twice as much. And think about the mouth as also for eating. It's not just for talking.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's really hard to not interject. Like I will say that because especially when you see someone struggling. But again, if
Yeah.
we go and rescue someone and they didn't learn how to rescue themselves, what
Mm-hmm.
happens the next time we're not there to rescue them?
Yeah. Well, and then essentially like the way I've, doing some 12-step work too, I've learned that all connects to control too. Ultimately, I'm trying to control the other person or I'm trying to play God. Like if I'm not here to rescue them, then what will happen? Well, they'll have to figure it out. And that is so hard. And it's easy for me to say right now. Those words coming out of my mouth right now are strange to even hear because there were so many years where I couldn't do that. It was like, if I don't fix this, then it's all going to fall apart. And that's actually not what happened. And then I get like butthurt because nothing fell apart. And it's like this big reality check that like we you are not that awesome. Like you, yes, we are. I don't mean it like that, but you have to get out of your own way and out of other people's way. And there was a book a long time ago when I first started even realizing that there was an issue in between my ears. Like, what do you mean? And I think it was called Love is a Choice. It's an old book. And the first probably 10 pages, I was like, how does this person know me? This is insane. And since that moment, honestly, and I haven't thought about that in a long time, I really have dove in and it's been ups and downs and opening and closing and opening and closing. And it's interesting that realizing that I have a choice to set boundaries. I have a choice to listen to other people's boundaries because it's all part of that. So holding space for somebody um, also has to have boundaries too, because me, myself, as a healthcare worker, as a forensic nurse, as a mom, as a friend, if I hold space for people when I'm not able and I don't have the space in that moment for whatever reason, then I start to take on those things, even if I'm not intending to. I don't know if you can relate to that or not, but it's something that is an active daily, like you don't just, I don't say you, I don't just get it all of a sudden and like never have to worry about taking on stuff. Like I feel like I'm constantly working through this very thing. How do I hold space for someone that I see struggling? And I fail often and I text somebody something and then I'm like, oh my gosh, why did I say that? I shouldn't have said anything except for I love you. And so I'm still learning. Like I think
Mhm.
we're all learning. That's the whole point of this journey. But um part of this podcast I want to address too is vicarious trauma, and that kind of plays into that. And that's where I'm going with that, is that's how people get wrapped up in other people's stuff. Like you may never have had that trauma or that abuse, but you take it on. Like emergency nurses are a good example. You see so much trauma, and we joke literally about our Care Bears die. You're a medic too. Like you're a firefighter, you see things that you have to compartmentalize, or you think you have to compartmentalize.
Mhm.
Um, Instead of processing them through somatically and moving it through, it gets stuck. And then you start to take on the symptoms and the behaviors and the lifestyle and the dysregulation that somebody who experienced it themselves did and you never did. And that's something that I have really just have a heart to see people get free from, because it's not yours to carry. And once you realize it's not yours to carry, that neck pain is gone. Like those things move through. And when you notice that they're stuck, then you noticed it and it's immediately in your awareness and it changes. So there's just so many rabbit trails off of that one issue. And I have a nurse coming on um, later on in the season that you'll hear that this is her passion is we have physicians, nurses, healers, body workers, people walking around carrying stuff that's not theirs, and their own families are missing out on their vitality and their creative expression because they don't know how to be a witness and let it go. So yeah, it's a big topic.
And I would ask, I think the bigger question is, why am I latching onto it?
Yeah,
Years ago, I just know so many amazing healers because I've been in this work for so long around me. And as someone had told me, do you notice that a lot of the women are extremely overweight? A lot of the women healers. And I hope that doesn't hurt anyone, but I do want to talk about it because there's a lot of layers to that because a lot of women and men both carry weight
yeah,
because of sexual trauma. It's
yep.
protection,
I mean, I can
but
relate to
it's
that
the
statement,
sim.
and it's true. Yeah,
Me too. Me too. Me too. Because I've gone up and down 100 times and I know it was protection. But here's the thing that I would ask with healers is they are carrying this shit, but why are they latching? Why do they hold on to it? What is it? And it's just like any other addiction, Val. It's just, and
yeah.
I
Gosh,
love that you
yes.
brought up the 12 step because again, I've struggled with alcohol, I've struggled with food, I've struggled with all kinds of things, shopping, all the things. But
Me
listen,
too. Yeah.
when I'm grounded and I'm taking care of Amber, I don't have an appetite for any of that. And so it's the same with healers. Most times, those people that you're finding, maybe they're heavy drinkers, maybe they have a lot of excess weight, which is an eating disorder, right? Maybe there's something, but at the end of the day, they are addicted to other people's problems and not able to take care of themselves. And it goes back to the same exact thing.
I feel like I could say that louder for myself in the back. And doing some 12 step work too. Like you have to do an inventory, a searching inventory of your own stuff, right? So I realized that my taking on those things for other people meant that I didn't have to look at myself. So you don't have to look at yourself if you're taking on that stuff for everybody else, right? So when you finally have a witness that can be a truth teller, and I hope we can touch on this a little bit because we talk about being a sacred witness, and usually those witnesses are silent, but there are times, and this is what I needed was a sacred witness, the right witness, so the right trauma witness, the right thing, the right person, the right moment to work something through, but also the truth teller to say, stop being a victim, and not in like this condemning way, but to speak to a piece of you that couldn't hear before. So when you just have a little crack that opens, and that's how kind of how I describe it, um, having a transformational experience like that, where somebody says something 100 times to me, telling me it's in my head, quote unquote. I'm doing air quotes, like it's in your head. No, that's not what they meant. But that's what I heard, and I can say that now. And I remember leaving just so angry, like they're telling me that this is in my head. Had somebody just said, "Listen, you may not have awareness, but these are how things show up in your body. Let's help you figure it out." Instead of saying, "There's nothing wrong with you. This is in your head. You need to go see a psychiatrist." Like, how are you supposed to respond to that? So it keeps people stuck that way. But the truth tellers, the people that love you and hear this the right way for sure, they don't have to necessarily be someone in your life to love you and be a truth teller, because the people that told me the truth did not necessarily know that much about me. And they still loved me and loved me enough to say, "You're sitting in a dirty diaper and you're doing this to yourself, and we don't feel sorry for you." Holy crap. And, but had they not said that to me in that way and explained to me the internal drugstore, the way that I am addicted to the drama, I am addicted to whatever it is. Like you said, if it's not the eating, it's the shopping. If it's not the shopping, it's the drinking. If it's not the drinking, it's the control. It's whatever it is. But realizing that that itself was the very thing that was keeping me high. And I had to do more of it and more of it to be able to be normal. And I'm a healer, I'm a healthcare worker. Give me a break. Like, when I look back at that now, I think it's a miracle that I'm sitting here with you today because and that's the passion that I have for helping people understand. And for my friends that are in my inner circle, they come to me when they want the truth because I'm not going to sugarcoat, and I could be a little gentler sometimes, sure, but my approach is very much what I need. So I guess I need somebody to tell me the truth and don't sugarcoat it because I think you're selling me otherwise. Like I need to hear the truth, but some people can't handle that. And as a witness, I think it can be damaging if you're not careful how you speak that truth or how it comes about. But I guess what I'm saying is to be a truth teller, I think you first have to be a silent witness. Like I don't think you can just jump in like I'm going to tell it how it is. This is what you need to hear because then that encroaches on giving advice and trying to push people into things. And that's why when somebody tells you the truth that you don't know and they don't know you, I believe personally that comes from God. And he uses that person to like smack me and say, this is the truth and you need to hear it. And it can save your life. It changes your life. And then all of a sudden, all those things aren't holding you down anymore. And those things just start to release and you can't even explain it.
Yeah, we've just become so, this is a big part of my speech because it's actually what my brother was. So my brother tragically died in 2020. And, although we had a really rough childhood together, he became my best friend. And I didn't realize till after he had died that he was my best friend because of what you just said. He was
Yeah.
including my husband of 14 years, he was the only truth teller in my life. But he would call me out on my shit, but at the same time, he would turn around and tell me he was so proud of me. He
Yeah.
he didn't hold back any of it. And we all have to have that person. But here's the thing, don't sweat it if you don't have that person.
Mm-hmm.
Start being it to yourself. Start being it to the other person. Again, if you want to be interesting, you better be interested. If you want people to tell you the truth, you better start telling the truth. And it has to start with you. I just got back from this amazing jujitsu camp and this dude that's freaking amazing. His name's Birdman. I know our mutual friend knows him. He's amazing. Andrea. He says, did you get it or did you get away with it?
I love this. I love that she talks about this.
Yeah. And he said it to us again. And it was like, he said it's about everything in life, Amber. He said it's not just jujitsu, it's about everything you say out of your mouth. Did you get it or did you get away with it? Are you full of shit or is it the truth?
Mm,
Did you speak loving? Like, I don't believe that it can be harsh. I believe if someone took it harshly and I came from a place of love, that is not my problem.
correct.
And I don't hold
And that's a
myself to
huge
that.
point. Yeah, that's a huge point that people
Yeah.
should understand. Because again, that's that people pleasing part. Like, I don't want to hurt their feelings, but you know what? It's truth. And sorry, like, I need to do it to myself all the time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it always comes back to us. Typically, I'm not able to handle the truth, so I can't give people the truth. It's everything's a mirror. And I think once we start seeing it as that, like every problem you have, stop projecting it outward and start projecting it inward because it's all a reflection of what's going on. And again, our external relationships will never be good until the internal relationship is solid. It's the longest relationship you're ever going to have. So you want to be a sacred witness to someone, you got to first start witnessing yourself. You
Yeah.
have to allow someone to witness you. Let them see the real you. That's hard
Mm-hmm.
shit,
Mm-hmm.
especially when we've been, lying to ourselves. We haven't been honest with ourselves. Um, and people will say you always have deep dark secrets. I don't always believe that. Like, I actually know people that I don't believe that's true. Um, I think sometimes the best people I know in my life, they're the closest to source, the closest to God. Um, they say the least, they listen the most, and they just aren't afraid to tell you everything they've done wrong in life.
Yeah.
And
It's
nothing,
freeing.
nothing shakes them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. I aim to be that way. I'm working
me
on it.
too.
I'm working on it.
Me too.
Let me ask you a question. Um, do you think that there's a difference, or can we flesh out this difference a little bit? A difference between having discretion with what we share with certain people versus having a
Mm,
secret? Because I think there are people who mean well, and I've done this and I can own it. You want people to tell you something of like, oh, just tell me, you can trust me, just tell me. And they may be exercising discretion, but I want all of the stuff so I can help them, quote unquote. Or um, I have had experiences where I didn't feel like I always talk about a break check in my spirit. Like if something's not right and there's like a break check, I know I need to not, this is like you said, you feel it in your body, you feel it in your gut. This is not somebody I should be saying these things to. Are they a bad person? No, they're just not the right person for this particular topic or subject or whatever. And I might step on some toes here, but in the church community and areas that I grew up and circles that I've been in, a lot of times that is kind of weaponized as um, you're harboring bitterness or you have unforgiveness or you are keeping secrets, like and it has taken me a lot to untangle that and realize that having discretion is not the same as having a secret, and not everything has to be everybody else's stuff. And I have no right to repeat other people's stuff too. I think it goes hand in hand, but
Mm.
that's something that in the beginning of a healing journey, I think I told too many people too many things because I was just so excited to like not feel the burn of being weighed down by all this. And there were some things that bit me, and I realized discretion would have been helpful. But now I'm on a podcast telling everybody my crap, so whatever. Because it doesn't matter. Like, we're free of that. If you say it's yeah. I mean, it's not a secret. It's not anything that I need to be ashamed of. But I guess what I'm saying is, for discretion wise, like, I can get on this podcast and say all of these things, but there may be somebody that can't handle that right now. And I don't need to say that to them, or I need to use discretion because although I am not responsible if somebody gets triggered, because that's something for them to work through, as I have to handle my own things as they come up and realize that it's not Amber that said it. Amber didn't make me get triggered. I was triggered by something that Amber said, which essentially the triggers disappear when you get it out of your body. Like, these things leave, and I'm starting to notice that things that used to trigger me don't anymore. And I notice, hey, well, I just moved right on and I don't even have to think about it. And it's beautiful.
Well, this is loaded, but I want to go to something real quick. And this is how I describe it. I'm a gun person. I want you to think of a weapon, and if it has no ammunition, does the trigger matter? No.
Well, that's good.
And so if the weapon is loaded with ammunition, then absolutely the trigger's dangerous, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so we have this society where, again, I got to be so careful, cautious. And when I became a yoga teacher and I was like going to do all this for vets and first responders, the first thing everybody says, oh my gosh. And there's well-meaning, amazing people out there that call themselves trauma informed. And I think that's a beautiful term. But at the same time, you will never fully be trauma informed on everybody's trauma. It's
Right. How
impossible
could you
because
be?
nobody knows.
Mm-hmm.
And your body is, even if you and I had the same trauma, our bodies are digesting it differently. So that's the thing about the trigger. So triggers, in my opinion, are bullshit. Handle your own freaking ammunition. We won't have a
Mm-hmm.
problem.
I love that.
But people have to be aware of that. But I want to go back to this discretion and secrets because I think this is a really big thing because women specifically, we thrive on drama. Just a fact. We thrive on drama, or at least we do when we're not integrated. Okay. We thrive on drama, which means we love secrets, we love juice, we love gossip. It gets us high on dopamine. We love it. We share things because we want to be seen, but we know deep down that sometimes, yes, we overshare. And what you said, me too, girl, all the time, to unsafe people, period.
Mm-hmm.
And then it gets what? Weaponized against us. So I go back to that weight. Why am I talking? You know how, like, when you go to buy a big thing, people tell you to sleep on it for 24 hours? I wish more people would sleep on the things they want to share for 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it has to go back to, I feel like everything you and I have talked about today is going back to, can you just be silent with yourself? Because that's the answer. I do think that it's important to have a safe person to offload to. Um, and sometimes we're just talking to talk. We really have nothing to say,
That's powerful, and it's
at
true.
least me,
That's a hard lesson for me to learn, and I'm still currently learning that. And
me too.
can you can you just talk for just a second, because you said something that struck me, that it's okay to offload. Do you think there's a difference between offloading and just sitting there bitching? Like, is that the same thing?
One friend will say hike it out. One of my friends that I used to share a lot with would say offload. Okay, this is an example. I had a really hard day. This is not what happened today, but say I had a really hard day and I'm about to go home and I don't want to take all this shit to my kids and my husband
Mm-hmm. Okay.
because they need me to show up for them tonight for sports. I might call this person and just say, hey, I just have to let this out. And this person that I know it's safe for me to offload to, first of all, they're not going to tell me what I want to hear. They're not going to join in on the drama. I think that's the biggest kicker. Are you
Yeah.
offloading to someone to get their, to get them on your bandwagon? Or are you offloading for someone, for them to say, okay, you done? We good?
Yeah.
Have a good day.
To be witnessed. Yeah. Yeah. That's a perfect description. I don't
Yeah.
think I don't think I could
Yeah.
have said it that way. That's amazing. There's so many
We need that
things.
sometimes.
Hmm. Going back to the neck thing.
Yeah.
Let's go back to that. I'm deeply
Yes.
curious what you're going to say about that.
Okay. So I have so many examples, but I want to share just two. So I um, have some really interesting examples of actually doing body work on people and things that would come out. I want to just share one thing. I had a hospice patient that I volunteered for hospice actually because of my eating disorder and because I was trying to get out of myself. And I was massaging a World War II veteran who actually is who I named my son after, Brody. And he started crying. He had bone cancer, and I was just massaging his legs, and he started crying. And I'll never forget that he said, "Don't hold this in." And his wife said to me, "He's never cried before." And she's standing by him. And the fact that the massage, the body had been keeping score, he's on his deathbed, the massage released that.
Mm,
First tears of his life on his deathbed, that she'd ever seen. And he says to me, "Don't hold that shit in."
mm,
Or, he might not have said shit, that might have been my word, but he said, "Don't hold it in." Anyway, so that's one powerful example. The other two are specifically with me, and they're specifically around anger. So, I have for about 5 years gotten styes every year in my eye. And it's like actually 2019, I was at a yoga teacher training and we had let go of a lot of anger. We did a lot of processing this day. It was a lot of deep work. And I'd had this sty in my eye for literally like 3 weeks. And I go back to my room and I remember praying just a gratitude prayer of letting go of some anger that I've been holding on to for a very long time. And anger is the absolute poison to our soul and body, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And this sty, as I'm saying this gratitude prayer for letting go of this anger, just let's go.
Wow.
And it was miraculous. It was like in the moment. Um, the body will hold on to anything that we give space for it to harbor, and it will let go of anything that we give space for it to set free. But there has to be that mind body connection, which is why I do think, as much as I was against yoga for so long, it's so powerful because what's the link between your mind and your body is your lungs and your heart, right? And for them to connect the two and for you to fully release, so many ailments are fixed. So many people's, guys that I work with, we're with a lot of fire departments per week. A lot of their pain goes away from Iris Yoga Nidra. It's not because we're miracle workers. It's because they got into the places in their body that were healed and healthy, and they stopped focusing on the problem. So they gave space for the problem to basically go away
Mm-hmm.
or, you know, dissipate. So I don't know if that makes sense, but the neck thing, neck, Louise Hay says the neck is about being inflexible and not being able to see other ways. And then the shoulders are carrying other people's burdens. Hips are about not being willing to move forward. And people can say this shit's hippie, whatever. Look it up yourself. But
No, say it
at
all.
the
I
end of the
want to hear
day,
it.
I
I want to hear it all.
I mean, I've never worked on a body that hasn't had shoulder issues. And I've
Mm.
never met a person yet in my life that doesn't carry other people's burdens. And so, I'm not saying that if you stop giving a crap about other people's burdens, if they're all going to go away, but I just find it very interesting. So it's you should just she has a great book. She passed away. I think today is actually the day that's somewhere around right now that she had passed. She was amazing. But um, it's called Heal Your Body by Louise Hay. And she cured herself of cancer. It's a pretty amazing story.
Wow. Our bodies are incredible. And being a nurse, of course, I've always been obsessed with the human body and the things that it can do and the things that can go wrong. And and I've worked trauma, I work in surgery. I've seen some crazy stuff. I've seen so many things, and I'm sure you have too as a firefighter and a medic that you forget that you've seen them until something else comes up and you're like, oh yeah, this one time I had this guy and it's just like incredible. And seeing miracles and seeing like how God created our bodies so intimately that who am I to ignore all of that? And I think about the years that I just ignored it and tried to muscle through like I knew better. Like I knew better than God what my body needed. And I felt so much freedom once I didn't know I wasn't breathing. I didn't know that my lungs, I didn't know how to breathe into my belly. I heard take a breath into your belly. I literally physically could not figure out how to do that. And it was kind of frustrating because I'm like, I should be able to do this. And I'm like, there, take a long inhale. And I'm inhaling and inhaling, inhaling. And I'm like, I think my lungs are going to burst because I'm just breathing in the top half, like not even down below. And interestingly, I started taking a Pilates class recently and she's like, you're breathing in your belly too much. And I was like, what? I've been practicing breathing into my belly. And she's like, no, 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 I just need you to do it here in the rib cage. And she's trying to teach me, these skills on this reformer machine, all these things. But I had like a little nod to myself, like, your breath work must be doing something because she's like, you're breathing in your belly and I need you to breathe in your chest. And so I had to work backwards from what I was teaching myself to do for the last couple of years. And I just thought it was just almost like a full circle moment. Like, I did get better practicing this breathing thing. So connecting the breath to what's going on in our body. And um, when somebody says, breathe into that, like I never really understood what that meant. And now I do.
Yeah, like
And
how do
it's,
I breathe into my
how do
ankle?
I breathe
Yeah.
into my knee? Like, explain this to me. Um,
Well, energy goes where attention goes. So, even
mhm,
in the moment that you bring your attention to your breath, this is very science backed. The moment you bring your attention to your breath, you lose your attention on what you're thinking about. So it's like, and you are expanding your lung capacity and you're bringing more, all the goodness to your body. But so
mhm.
the moment I focus on my low back in good thoughts, right? Like say I have a low back injury, which I actually do right now, and I'm focusing on, oh my gosh, it hurts so much. Oh my gosh, it hurts so much. That's all I'm drawing my attention to.
Mhm.
I'm losing my breath right there, right? Whereas,
Yeah.
I'm breathing into my body and I'm grateful. I'm just like, thank you for this low back supporting me. It's a completely different intention. But you're just not alone. I mean, on average, they say Americans are using 10% of our lung capacity.
Yeah.
We're just not breathing. And another thing about somatics is a Wim Hof training I did, cold exposure, but they do a lot of hyperventilating in that training. Just seeing people, I mean, and for us, medics, like people are posturing. So for us, it's like, oh
Right.
shit, this is bad,
This is
right? Like
bad.
you
Yeah.
only see this in seizures. Like, why are we posturing? The body's taken over, and it's really the most euphoric peace and joy after that training that I felt, even through all my yoga trainings. It was really hard, but it was really good. And so
Mm,
there's so much out there now with breath work, but just know that the lungs are your engine, right? So think about the engine in your car. It's so important, right? You have no car moving if the engine isn't taken care of. So take freaking care of those lungs. It's your engine.
yeah. And it's your voice, like all of that, it's all connected, right? Like, I just think that's beautiful. One thing you could leave listeners with today from our discussion, which was fantastic, by the way. What's one thing you would just one thing they could hang on to if they remember one thing from today?
Just to really give yourself more grace and space and start to just really have honest conversations with yourself. Spend more time inward, asking, how am I feeling? Where am I feeling it? Versus seeking anything external. It all has to start there. Um, and grace and space come once we start looking within. But to remember that this body has been doing a lot of things wherever you are, whatever age you're at, your body's been doing a lot for a long time and it has a memory. So we just have to reteach it a new memory.
That's so good. That's really powerful. And um, last but not least, when you're holding space, what is your personal practice to not hold on to these things? And I know you've done a lot of space holding for people. You've done it for me. Like, what is your go-to to release those things? Or do you have a ritual or something that you can share with our listeners?
Yeah, well, the place that we go to every day, no matter what you do, is the bathroom. So,
True.
this is people are going to laugh about this, but when I'm on the toilet doing whatever business I'm doing, um, I just pray to God to release whatever I don't need to hold on to, like let it all go right
Huh.
there.
I
I
never would
was
have thought
taught
of
by an
that.
amazing healer doctor. He's Yeah. And then because we all go there, right? I don't care how busy you are. You have to at some point go pee. Um, and then a great healer, and again, if you're not a Jesus person, you can call it whatever, but a great healer, MD, said to me, just say this prayer with me when I was really sick years ago. And he just would have me hold my hands up and just say, God, fill me with your love. And I will do that before I'm going into any healing session, and typically after, just in gratitude too. And I just, lifting our hands up over our head is very powerful.
Hmm.
But just be there for a minute with it. God, fill me with your love, and just be there with it. So, and then, releasing, I just like to be in nature. I like to be barefoot. I like to work out, get in water, just move your body afterwards to shake shit out, literally.
Yeah, that's powerful. And that's my go-to too, is I love being in the trees and just, they can soak up whatever it is I'm putting out there. And horses and, just nature and animals. That's one of my favorite too. Um, and I love what you said about holding the hands up. And my go-to is, God, this isn't mine. Please take it and help me to leave it there. Like, let me leave it there. So, if you would do me the honor, Amber, would you lead our guests in just a quick release for everything that they've heard? If these conversations maybe brought up some feelings for them, um, or for someone else that maybe they just realized all of a sudden they're doing things they weren't aware of. So, we both know how that feels when you discover that. So, would you do us the honor of leading us through a quick release
Yeah.
as we come to a close?
I'll be happy to. So I just invite any of you just to take a hand to your heart and a hand to your belly. And if you're comfortable letting your eyes close, let them close. If not, maybe just look at something down towards the floor that's not moving. And I just invite you to just notice your breath and your belly. Notice this amazing machine under your hands, breathing, heart beating. Notice the expansion and softening as you breathe in and out. Thank this amazing heart and lungs and body for doing all the things they're doing while you're, hijacked by whatever you're doing in life. The body's still processing, digesting, cycling. Feel your feet. Continue to keep the hands on the heart and belly. And know that as we hold this for 20 seconds or longer, we actually are releasing oxytocin when we keep a hand over our heart, which is a bonding chemical. And it's not just a bonding chemical with others, but most importantly, ourselves, that longest relationship we'll ever have. And I just invite people, especially children, to allow yourself to do this often. Put your hand on your heart, hand on your belly if that helps too, but especially the hand on the heart, and just allow yourself to really feel this life underneath your hands, and know that no matter what's going on externally, that we can always come back here within. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Amber. What a gift you are. Thank you for being a sacred witness for today's episode. If this conversation has brought up difficult feelings, please remember to take care of yourself in whatever way you need. Healing is not a straight line, and you do not have to walk this alone, okay? So if you need additional support, please reach out to a trusted friend, a professional, or a resource in your community. There's resources listed in the show notes as well. Your well-being matters the most, so thank you for being here and choosing to listen with care. Until next time, remember that you are loved and worthy of being witnessed.